Professor Felten, maybe another question to you, because of your experience at the White House and as a broadly policymaker for a country. I think this was alluded to before during the former speeches here, but there's a question of how do we ensure that the fruits of digital innovation and technological advancements are shared broadly among society and not just among the digitally privileged or advanced. And so before we had this talk about the digital divide, and now with AI we're talking about displacement, what happens, are the less skilled going to be even relegated to a worse fate? So how do we ensure that? What was your experience? Could you give us some insights on that?
This was a topic that generated a lot of discussion and analysis when I was in the White House, and we produced a public report about automation, AI automation and the economy in December of 2016 that talked about this issue. And there's no doubt that the rise of AI and other related technologies are increasing the pace of the rate of change in the economy. They are increasing the premium to education and technology education, and there is a risk that a new type of digital divide could emerge. At the same time, one of the lessons I felt I learned from talking to so many colleagues and stakeholders about this issue is that these challenges are very real, but they're different in degree, but not as much in type from the challenges that we have been facing for many years. We already struggle to make sure that our education system serves the entire population and that children are not left behind. We already struggle to make sure that there is economic security is available to more people. We already deal with the amount of churn in our job market as jobs disappear and new jobs are created by our very dynamic economies. And I think these technologies do not fundamentally change those challenges. They simply make what is at stake larger. The urgency of these challenges, I think, is higher than it was. But the solutions that I think were available, at least in our analysis of the US policy landscape, began with doing the things that we have long known we needed to do, such as improving the quality and equity in our education system, and making sure that people who are in poverty or have insecure or deal with economic insecurity have the resources available to them so that they can reach a stronger and more stable position.
모두께서 이제 제기하신 질문이 디지털 경제의 그 과실을 사회 구성원 모두가 함께 누릴 수 있는 방법이 과연 있는지에 대해서 물으셨습니다. 자, 결론적으로 제가 말씀드리면 저희들이 아직 해답을 못 찾았습니다. 그리고 지금 현재 열심히 찾고 있는 중이고요. 아마 그 해답은 사회 구성원, 그러니까 기업, 소비자, 정부 모두가 함께 노력할 때 좀 더 빨리 그리고 좀 더 좋은 해답을 찾을 수 있을 거라고 생각합니다. 이 질문은 사실 경쟁당국들은 늘 고민하고 있습니다. 이게 신산업뿐만 아니고 전통산업에서도 이게 되게 어려운 질문이고요. 그리고 저 자신도 경쟁당국에 이제 27년째 근무하고 있는데 아직도 저도 확신을 못합니다. 케이스 바이 케이스로 돌아왔을 때 이전에 제 생각하고 달라지는 경우도 있고요. 특히 전통산업하고 신산업 간의 관계가 되었을 때 더더욱 어렵습니다. 그래서 이제 근데 제가 분명히 말씀드리면 저희들의 경쟁법의 목적은 항상 특정 사업자 또는 기업이 아닙니다. 소비자입니다. 그러니까 저희들은 항상 소비자 이익을 위해서 소비자의 베너핏을 위해서 이제 일을 하는데 실제 법 집행에 있어서 저희들이 생각하고 경쟁법이 추구하는 목적을 그대로 구현하느냐, 이건 별다른 문제고 정말 어려운 문제입니다. 특히 이제 그 데이터를 기반으로 하는 산업에서는 새로운 이제 상품이라든가 서비스 개발, 그리고 기존 제품이나 서비스 개선 또는 소비자 요구에 맞는 맞춤식 광고 등 대부분이 아마 여기 계신 분들 다 혜택이 된다고 그렇게 생각하실 겁니다. 그래서 이제 이런 소비자의 선택을 받으려는 그 기업들의 그 과정 또는 노력 과정은 당연히 사회적으로 장려돼야 된다고 보고요. 하지만 뭐 여러분들 가끔 보시다시피 그 가끔 저 힘 있는 기업들이 시장에서 이제 경쟁 사업자를 축출하고자 하거나 또는 새롭게 들어오는 기업들을 그 들어오지 못하게 하거나 이제 이런 경우가 있지 않습니까? 이런 경우에는 소비자들이 이익을 해칠 수 있기 때문에 경쟁 당국의 그 시장 개입이 필요하다고 저는 생각하고 있습니다. 그래서 이런 이유로 선진 경쟁 당국들은 이제 경쟁법 위반을 평가할 때 기준이 물론 이제 일치된 기준은 아닙니다. 근데 대부분의 그 선진국 경쟁 당국들은 법을 위반할 때 어떤 기준을 가지고 평가할 것인가 할 때 사회적 총후생 기준보다는 소비자 후생 기준으로 평가해야 된다는 게 상당히 우세하고요. 저희 공정거래, 대한민국 공정거래법에도 많은 부분에 이 기준을 규정하고 있습니다. 그 예를 들면 아마 여기 계신 분들 다 이제 비즈니스 업계에 계신 분들은 기업 결합은 아마 다 그 기업들한테는 당연히 유리하니까 기업을 사고 팔겠죠, 그죠? 근데 이 기업들에게 이익이 되는 걸 기업들이 독차지한다, 내부할 경우, 그리고 반대로 이제 시장에서 경쟁 사업자가 줄어들면 아마 가격을 올리거나 또는 품질이 떨어지거나 또는 기술 개발을 게을리할 이런 아마 유인 내지 유혹이 있지 않겠습니까? 이럴 경우에는 경쟁 당국들이 기업 결합을 소비자 후생 기준에 따라서 잘 막는 경우가 있습니다. 제가 뭐 간단하게 말씀드리면 기업들이 혁신 또는 기술 진보에 대한 유인은 최대한 이제 장려하되 소비자의 이익을 해치는 반칙 행위는 하지 못하도록 하는 것이 경쟁 당국의 주요한 임무라는 걸 말씀드리겠습니다. 하지만 사실 어떤 행위가 소비자들에게도 기업에게도 도움이 되고 어떤 행위는 기업에만 도움이 되고 어떤 행위는 반면에 소비자에게는 해로운지 사실 이거 구분하기가 정말 쉽지 않습니다. 제가 아까 말씀드렸듯이 전통 산업에는 미국 전 FTC 커미셔너 나와 있지만 미국 같은 경우는 이제 140년, 130년 정도 됐잖아요. 근데 그런 나라라든가 뭐 EU라든가 우리 대한민국도 38년의 경험을 가지고 저희들이 나름대로 그 기준을 맞출 수 있는데 이 신산업 데이터를 기반한 신산업은 정말 그 산업 자체의 그 생산 발전도 얼마 안 됐고 경쟁 당국의 경험과 또 전문성도 사실 부족한 게 사실입니다. 그래서 더 어렵고요. 이런 면에서 경쟁 당국이나 규제 당국들이 더 열심히 해야 됩니다. 그리고 제가 좀 경쟁 당국, 제가 경쟁 당국 또는 소비자 당국으로서 좀 저희들이 스스로 이제 좀 반성해야 될 점도 있고 또 이제 외부로서 지적받는 사항을 좀 말씀드리고자 하는데 사실 의사 결정에 있어서 저희들이 뭐 전지전능하지 않지 않습니까? 그래서 실수를 하게 되는데 특히 이제 저희 경쟁법 집행에서 두 가지 실수가 있습니다. 그러니까 사회적으로 바람직한 행위를 경쟁 당국이 잘못 판단해서 금지시키는 경우 아마 신산업에 종사하시는 분들이 상당 부분이 이 주장을 합니다. 저희들은 뭐 전문용어로 적법 오류라 그렇게 얘기를 하는데 또 하나는 이게 소비자에게 해로운 반칙 행위인데 경쟁 당국이 판단을 잘못해서 허용하는 경우입니다. 뭐 전문용어로는 저희들이 위법 오류라고 하는데 두 가지 중에서 어떤 게 더 나쁘냐 했을 때 저는 개인적으로는 사회적으로 소비자에게 사회적으로 유익한 행위를 경쟁 당국이 판단해서 잘못 판단해서 금지하는 게 훨씬 나쁘다고 생각합니다. 물론 다른 여기 계신 분들 또는 저희 조직 안에서도 저하고 다른 견해를 가지고 있는 분들이 많은데 그 이유는 이렇습니다. 사회적으로 유익한 행위를 경쟁당국 또는 뭐 경쟁당국이 판단한 후에 법원이 판단하겠죠. 잘못해서 금지시키면 이 좋은 행위는 영영 그 사회에서 사라지게 됩니다. 그래서 그 피해는 어마어마하게 클 겁니다. 반대로 사회적으로 나쁜 또 소비자의 나쁜 행위인데 경쟁당국이 실수를 해서 그걸 허용하게 되면 나중에 그 교정할 기회가 있습니다. 그런 면에서 저는 그 적법 우려가 훨씬 더 나쁘다고 생각하고요. 그래서 이제 결론적으로 말씀드린 경쟁당국은 혁신 산업에서는 정말 개입을 저는 개인적으로 조심해야 된다고 생각합니다. 어디서 문제를 제기했다고 해서 바로 개입하는 것보다는 충분히 생각하고 자신이 없을 때는 좀 한 발 빼서 좀 의견도 듣고 또 전문가로부터 얘기도 듣고 이런 과정을 거쳐서 꼭 필요하면 어느 정도 확신이 있을 때 개입하는 게 좋다고 생각하고요. 다만 아까 제가 말씀드렸듯이 개입할 때도 항상 늘 염두에 둬야 되는 것은 항상 우리가 혹시나 우리 잘못 판단 또는 우리 전문성 부족으로 과잉 법이 꼭 개입해서도 안 되는 분야에 과잉하게 들어가거나 또는 아까처럼 정말 이 실수할 가능성이 많은데도 좀 과감하게 들어가거나 이런 위험은 항상 있다는 걸 좀 고민하고 늘 염두에 두고 그렇게 접근하는 게 좋다고 봅니다.
I'm going to direct the next question to Ms. Brill, and maybe she will have some comments on what was just discussed as well. You alluded to trust, and I think trust is becoming a truly increasingly important commodity for businesses in the digital age. So how can businesses boost trust from individual users and consumers, their business partners and customers, and of course regulators and policymakers?
So as I mentioned, of course, companies need to step in and be ethical and act appropriately where laws don't exist. But I think there are a lot of other steps, and I'd like to outline a few of them in this response. One of the things that we did at Microsoft as we were facing dealing with complying with the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union, which is otherwise known as Gdpr. I'm assuming everybody here knows about that, but I just wanted to define it. As we were getting ready to comply with Gdpr, we decided that there were aspects of it that were very important to operationalize globally. Microsoft has long believed that privacy is a fundamental human right, and there were certain aspects of GDPR that helped us demonstrate that globally. And I think that providing some of the data subject rights that are embedded in the General Data Protection Regulation was a very important step for us to take and to lead from a US-based but globally operating technology firm to demonstrate that we understood that there were certain rights that individuals should have whether or not they are covered by GDPR. So we are providing access, correction, deletion, and portability rights, again, those core rights that are given to data subjects under GDPR, we are providing those rights globally. And we do this through a dashboard. And I think that's another step, not just recognizing that certain provisions of a law that is actually geographically bound, in some ways geographically bound, in some ways it's actually not geographically bound, but to take a law that has some boundaries around it and to say, now this makes sense to apply globally. That's one step. But another step is to then make it very easy for users to exercise those rights. So we've developed a dashboard. It's going to be continually improving, but it is designed to be a way for users to interface and to exercise their rights in an easy fashion. And what we've seen since GDPR came online is millions of consumers are interfacing with our dashboard. Interestingly, On a per capita basis, there are more users in the United States and Canada that are exercising their data subject rights than there are in Europe, at least with respect to Microsoft systems. So that's sort of interesting. But I do think it's important to do these kinds of things to demonstrate trust with respect to users. I think with respect to customers, the issue of trust is, this is the core of Microsoft's business. We empower other companies to do what they want to do. We are a major processor, a major cloud provider, and it's required under GDPR to assist the controllers who come to us as a processor and store their data in the cloud. It's required that we assist them in complying. But just meeting the minimum bar of the law is not going to necessarily generate trust. So what we have done is we've built a separate dashboard for our customers to help them comply. And we have put so much information on that dashboard, and it's there for all of our competitors to see all of the ways in which we are providing information to our customers so that they can comply with the law. I think that creating that kind of dashboard, that very transparent mechanism, has also been a very key element to generating trust among our customers as well as among regulators. And that's then the third issue is how do you ensure and help regulators have trust in what you're doing as a company, and frankly, as what the industry is doing, because each player, I think, has a responsibility to demonstrate trust for the entire industry. I think there are several steps that need to be taken by companies to demonstrate trust to regulators. Some of them were referred to by Mr. Song. You really want to embed compliance into the data to the extent that you can. So data tagging, great technology. We're obviously doing a lot of it. I think also then developing privacy enhancing technologies like differential privacy, like using federated learning. These are techniques that can be used to further enhance the anonymity of data and allow AI systems to flourish at the same time. So I think those are important techniques for companies to use. But I think there are also, at a higher level for companies, 3 steps that I always recommend in dealing with regulators. And I was a regulator for many years, and I've seen companies do this well, and I've seen companies do it badly. The first step is to educate regulators, because again, the laws are often far behind where technologies are, and frankly, unfortunately, regulators often don't know kind of the latest of what is happening in companies. It used to be that regulators were 5 years behind technology, but now I'd say it's 6 months behind, but those are actually functionally equivalent today. So it's really up to companies to help educate regulators. It's up to companies to discuss what is actually happening on the ground with their technologies. That's the second step. It's up to regulators of companies to comply with the law where need be. And actually there's a fourth step that I think is very important to generating trust with the global ecosystem, not just regulators and not just users and not just customers, but everywhere. And that is to challenge regulators and to challenge the government where appropriate. And Microsoft has been one of the leaders in doing that with respect to government access to data. We've sued the government in the United States several times and always have been successful. And what we've done is we've challenged the government when they were accessing data in an inappropriate way from what we believed was outside the law or in a questionable way with respect to the law. So I think there are lots of steps that companies can take. Those are some of them. I'm sure my colleagues here have many other ideas. And I really am a big believer that companies now in today's environment need to lead in all of these ways because we are in a lacuna of regulation right now.
So we take privacy and security very seriously, so including the abusing cases. So we have a Naver ID, open API, which is like a Facebook login system. And also we do have location-based services and map services. So So we already deal with the location privacy and the security. The privacy and security is a very different thing, but it's a private security and privacy engineering. So we take it very seriously. So the thing is that South Korean law is actually very stringent on the privacy and security. It's already very secure. So I think we are almost ready to comply with the GDPR because we don't have any services in the European country, but we are getting ready for it because we're trying to. So we acquired a French XRC, a Xerox Research Center in France last year, and we are getting ready to get the global services. So we are almost ready to comply on the GDPR, and we have a security and privacy engineering team to come up with the differential security, differential privacy, and also the security level to where the Naver login ID and Naver login services and app services are very secure. The thing is that it's very important to let the users know that their data is secure and data is stored in a secure manner, and they are stored and discarded as is required by law. And so we do that all the time. The thing is that we, in that regard, I can't say that the Naver has done a great job in letting people know, the user know that we are doing that. So I think we should be getting, we have to work on that regard more seriously than communication both ways. We saw the mutual communication between the user and Naver. So what we have found in our perception-based and audible-based, the new services like a wave speaker, a Pago translation, in some countries, they're not willing to speak into the microphone. And in wave speaker, some people think that we are always listening all the time. So these are the things that the new service came about, and people feel kind of insecure about the privacy and security. So I think we need to come up with a new user interfaces. Say it's in the Papago example, you need to come up with a better way to actually not letting them to speak into the microphone and so forth. So we are also working in the user interface side as well. So we take it very seriously, and so we need to work on the communications with the users, so how we are doing. And then also we need to come up with a better way to sort of dashboard-like thing to give rights and store and discard options to users.
One way of thinking about the trust issue is that is to simply adopt the goal of not surprising stakeholders with your behavior. That is, if users or regulators are surprised and unhappy to learn that you have been doing something, then your trust operation has failed. And much of what has been described here is really aimed beyond compliance with the law and avoiding that kind of surprise by being more transparent with stakeholders, as well as trying to engineer products and processes to reduce the amount of data, the amount of risk, so that to create a situation where users or stakeholders will be pleasantly surprised to learn what you're doing.
I call that the Aunt Emily test. What would Aunt Emily say if she knew if she knew what was going on?
Actually, if I may as well. So we were doing some survey work actually of startups and how their attitudes towards complying with the GDPR. And it was quite interesting their perspective, because these are startups that are building their technology fresh. And they were actually quite enthused about the idea of actually, okay, we can actually tackle data protection by design and try and bring the benefits from data as well. So they're actually saying we can do both. We get the benefits from data, but also empower users and these sorts of things. What they saw is, and the sort of feedback we had from the more mid-sized firms was, oh, this is going to be a chilling effect. It's going to destroy our business, primarily because they've got all these old legacy systems they have to deal with. So it's interesting to see that there's kind of like the big global firms or the bigger firms are much better positioned to sort of deal with these sorts of aspects. And the small startups are also in a position to try and deal with, compliance with GDPR. It's these sort of middle tier firms that aren't quite big enough to maybe re-engineer everything from the start that I feel like in a little bit of sort of deep water at the moment. But then again, relying on bigger service providers to provide services that help them comply or at least assist them in managing data